Hey everybody, this is Dino from Ampeg, and guess what? Loud Technologies was actually crazy enough to let me into their custom shop to give you an inside look on what goes into your heritage. This is Hodgy.
Hello everybody.
This is the guy that builds your heritage. And like I say, when I'm talking about heritage on video and in stores and I'm saying they're all built in Woodinville, Washington, this is the guy that's building them. So we're going to talk to Hodgy, get a little bit insight on what goes into your heritage, how it's built, and what makes it a rocking SVT. Before we get started though, I gotta ask you about your shirt.
This is a classic Ampeg shirt. I've had this shirt for probably between 18 and 20 years, long before I even started working for Ampeg.
So he is a die-hard Ampeg fan, again, building your amp. So, Hodgy, walk us through what happens with heritage. Like, what's the birth of a heritage? Where does it start?
I start off with, I get a box of tubes in, and the first thing I do before I even start building a unit, I test these tubes and I throw them on my tube burn-in station. As you can see over here, this tube burn-in station is essentially a 1500 watt CL base amp. I can test up to 5 sets of tubes at a time. It will run 10 Ampeg HSVT 810 cabinets at 2 ohms if you were so inclined to plug one in, which we are going to do one of these days and see if we can get the cops called on us. Anyway, we do a burn-in for 24 hours on each of these tubes to make sure they're going to be perfect. After that, we throw them on the maxi matcher. We rematch each set of tubes. They come into us matched, but we rematch each set of tubes before they go into any unit that we build. Well, basically, the first station on the line is where we put our output transformer and our power transformers and mate them with the chassis.
So this right here is a chassis, transformers installed,
Right.
tube socket board, it looks like that's installed. All the
Yes.
wiring's been pulled through at this point.
That is correct.
Okay.
This is basically the first station on the line when all of this stuff gets done. So we're basically starting from an empty chassis, adding it so it's starting to actually look like an SVT. Then we step on down the line and add the CL preamp to the mix, and everything gets wired up at this station. I personally hand wire every single one of these amps. My hands are in every single one of these that go down the line. As soon as we're finished with the wiring section, then we put in our main power board, get that all hooked up, wired up, and you can see down here at this point we put in our tubes, which are JJ6550s for the 2011 run. This time they get a good old functional test, and we run them through the paces. Every frequency gets checked, every knob gets checked, the 0 dB gain, the -15 input. It's basically an extensive EQ test, and also we check the outputs, the preamp out, power amp in, slave out, make sure everything is working to Ampeg engineers' tasking standards.
So this is a functioning amp right now.
Yeah, I could plug this in and play it.
Okay,
It wouldn't look great on top of your 810, but it would work.
So we went from a chassis to transformers, boards, to an actual working unit at this point.
Functioning full-on unit.
Cool. Now I notice also that the amps are on these trays, these sliding trays. Is that?
Yeah, that's something I did just for manageability.
Yeah, sliding an 80-pound amplifier around can get kind of tiresome after
A little
a while.
bit taxing, yes.
Cool. Okay. So Hodgy, this is kind of like the final step where what we just saw is all installed into the head cabinets.
This is the end of the line. We put the guts into the chassis, fire them up, pump signal through it for, we do a 4-hour burn-in.
So you pump signal through this amp for 4 hours.
For 4 hours.
How's everybody in the room feel about that?
It's on a load.
Okay. But anyways, so the on top of the 24-hour burn-in back on the tube bench,
Right.
they're burned in here for another 4 hours.
4 hours, yep.
Wow.
With signal.
Okay.
At this point, they're almost ready to go out the door, except for one thing. I have to play it first.
I love the GM seatbelt buckle, man.
Thought we were doing product placement.
It's general management. Very cool. Very cool. You test all the features again.
Yep, I run through all the EQ again. Make sure everything's all the switches are working.
Okay, so Hodgy, let's talk about cabinets now. Obviously, we're looking at some sort of a testing station, right?
That's right. This is our speaker tester. Each one of these speakers we get in, we test. These are EMINENCE speakers, specifically built for the Heritage cabinets, the 810s and the 410s. This one here is a 32 ohm 810 speaker that we run through this little sweep test. If it doesn't pass this test, out it goes. If it runs, then someday it will grow up into a great big 810 cabinet. And it runs a little frequency test, bam, good. Every single speaker we get gets this test before it goes into the cabinet.
So even after Eminence tests them in Kentucky and ships them to us, we test them here again to make sure
That's
that
right.
they're true.
After the speakers are tested, I drop them into a cabinet, wire it up, screw the speakers into the cabinet. Every single one of them, hand wired by me once again.
Now, there's one thing that I also noticed on the Heritage cabinets. Rather than using just wood screws, screwing the speakers directly into the baffle board, we're using T-nuts and metal screws or sheet metal screws.
That is
right?
correct.
Or not sheet metal screws, machine screws.
Machine screws, right?
Okay. Now, tell me something about this buzz and rub testing.
Well,
Sounds kinda weird there.
after the speakers are populated into the cabinets, as you say, we throw a frequency through it just to make sure there's no extraneous rattles or odd noises coming through the amp. At this time on the 410s, I'll make sure that we're getting the high end off of the tweeter that's in there.
Which is also an Eminence part.
EMINENCE tweeter.
The T50.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Cool. After that, then we roll it down the line into our anechoic chamber,
What's that?
where we give it a similar test that we did the single speakers, but at this time we're testing the entire cabinet.
So, Hodgy, now that everything's been burned in and play tested and burned in and play tested and burned in and play tested again, the final step is essentially
Play test.
play test one last time
One
before
final
it gets
time.
the hang tag. And
That's
everybody
right.
knows about the famous hang tags by now that are all signed off by yourself and
On good days, we get an Ampeg artist in here to actually sign off on some of these units, which is very exciting for everybody
now
around here.
I know Tony Levin signed off on some.
On some of the very first ones.
Juan
were signed
Alderete.
off by Juan Alderete was in here a few weeks ago.
And obviously we tell them what to look for, and I mean Juan knows what an SVT is supposed to sound like. He's been playing them for years. But
Yeah,
Okay.
he's a heck of a great guy.
So, but like I said, this, for instance, this is a 410 HLF that's earned its hang tag.
Right.
And it's been signed off by, actually it was Zane Williams, one of the product managers, that signed off on this one. So Zane
Yep.
was probably just down here play testing some of this stuff. So there's only a few select guys that have the final sign off on these,
That's
if
right.
I'm not mistaken. Man, I can't thank you enough for showing us around. Thank you so much, Hodgy.
Thanks for coming back.
Again, guys, this is the guy that built your CL. Don't forget the face. He's building your stuff for you. As always, my name's Dino Minoxidus. Play more bass, guys.